Past Tense by Catherine Aird. Read by Ric Jerrom. Chapter 1. "Certainly, madam," said the man in the black jacket and striped trousers, pen and notepad at the ready. "Now, how many would that be for?" "I don't know exactly," muttered Janet, "so I can't tell you." She hated being addressed as madam. What she liked to be called by all and sundry was the friendly, familiar-sounding Jan, or even her proper Christian name of Janet. And after that, if the worst came to the worst, Mrs. Wakefield, certainly not by anything as formal as madam. This man was definitely not all and sundry. He was, in fact, the manager of the very grand hotel in whose lobby they were now sitting. His pen was still hovering above the paper, while he waited politely for her to continue. "It's for a funeral, you see," Janet said awkwardly. She had already felt quite intimidated enough by the splendour of the Ulmston Towers Hotel, without having to explain that she didn't even know who, let alone how many people, would be coming. "I quite understand, madam," he said, as a uniformed hotel minion approached their table with a tray of coffee. "Awake." It wasn't a word she liked. Actually, it was one she had been avoiding ever since Bill's great-aunt Josephine had died, preferring instead bereavement reception, or, even better, just a gathering. "That's right," she said. "And would that be after a burial or a cremation?" he inquired. "What difference does that make?" she asked curiously. "Timing," replied the manager promptly. "Cremations tend to run to time, and of course we know exactly how long it takes for the mourners to get here from the Calliford crematorium. It's a little different with a church service and burial." The word mourners was another one that Janet Wakefield didn't really like using. After all, she could scarcely be described as a mourner for some old lady whom she had never even seen, let alone known. Her husband, Bill, had just described his great-aunt Josephine Short vaguely as one of his late mother's many aunts, whom he hadn't known either. He'd rather thought that his great-aunt Josephine had fallen out with the rest of her family years ago, but he wasn't really sure. And of course his own mother, Janet's mother-in-law, that is, had died before Bill and Janet had been married, and so wasn't around any more to ask. "A church service is more difficult, then, is it?" she asked, searching around in her mind for something neutral to say. "Oh, no, madam, but the actual burial afterwards, as opposed to cremation, takes longer and can sometimes delay the arrival of the family here." "The funeral is at the church at Berebury Regis," she said, reaching for the coffee-pot, and adding firmly, "to be followed by interment in the churchyard there." Why interment was a less emotive word than burial, she didn't know, but it was. "Allow me, madam," said the manager, deftly picking up the coffee-pot ahead of her with one hand and arranging the cups with the other. "Black or white?" "White, please." Janet subsided back in her chair, an elegant affair in the French Empire style, but more comfortable than it looked, and determinedly carried on speaking while he poured. "I've just made the arrangements with the vicar there." "That would be Reverend Mr. Tompkinson," said the major-domo smoothly. "That's right," she agreed, adding the vicar's Christian name in an attempt at introducing a little informality into the proceedings. "Derek Tompkinson." "Just so," said the manager. Janet decided that this man was pretty nearly as formal as the Registrar of Deaths had been, and that had been bad enough, especially when it transpired that she hadn't brought with her all the documents that the registrar had wanted. Her stammered explanation that she hadn't visited the deceased's room at the nursing home yet, and so didn't have what was wanted to hand, was accepted, with the proviso that she would do so and go back to the registrar with them as speedily as possible. Bill and Janet Wakefield hadn't even known that Miss Josephine Eleanor Short was a resident in the Berebury Nursing Home in the town, let alone ill and dying in the place, until the matron there had rung to say that a Mr. William Wakefield, of Bill and Janet's address, was down in their records as their late resident's next of kin, and what did he want doing about the funeral? Actually, Mr. William Wakefield wasn't there, and therefore wasn't able to do